Alright, hey everybody, Bobby Chiu here. So today I'm going to take you through the entire process of a painting, starting from the very beginning, a blank canvas all the way to the end, and sharing with you tips and tricks and things, knowledge that I've been able to obtain or discover through years, sometimes decades of struggling. And I hope that these tips will help you in your career, your art. Okay, so let's start from the very beginning. The blank canvas. I don't want to leave anything unsaid. Anything that can help. The blank canvas in the very beginning is not white. Did you notice that, right? Usually we paint on a white canvas and we usually make everything darker. We can't make anything lighter. But if you're painting on a gray canvas, essentially you can make things lighter. That to me is a big advantage. The other really big advantage here is that the canvas is not as contrasting. If I used white canvas, I started painting black on top of it, that becomes extremely contrasting. And when things are more contrasting, you tend to get sore eyes more easily. I noticed this at first just from going to comic conventions. Comic conventions, there's so much to look at. There's so much color and contrast, so many different little items everywhere, cosplay everywhere. There's way too much information and it's a nicely lit area. I guarantee you, if you are just looking at fluffy white clouds all day, you will not have sore eyes like as if you're looking at a bunch of people in a comic convention with all these different colors, all these different tones, all these different values. Okay, so that's number one. Don't want to start off with a white canvas. The other part to this is that you can see I have a secondary window here on the left-hand side. I can do that while painting on the layer in the background because I'm using Photoshop in a PC. That's the only reason. I used to love working on Mac, but then I found that in Photoshop, if I did two different windows, I put one window on top of the other, and I started to work on the bottom window, of course that bottom window would rise right to the top, and I can't see my little window anymore. But I want to see my little window, because that little window is kind of like my rearview mirror when I'm driving. I look in there every 20-30 seconds to make sure that we're not heading towards disaster, right? The smaller window allows me to see how my painting is going as a whole, right? So many times as artists, we get so caught up in the small, tiny little nuances of things, and then all of a sudden we're painting this beautiful ankle, but how does the rest of the painting look? Kind of looks bad. Okay, so don't do that. Now let's talk about the story a little bit. This is inspired by winter, really. Winter in Toronto, where I am, it kind of just came all of a sudden. It's almost like no warning. All of a sudden, boom, now it's cold. And so I wanted to capture that feeling and play off of that feeling by painting this. Fall is over, winter is here. This giant white creature is bursting out of the snow and is going to eat these colorful little flying critters there. So I tend to paint fictional things, right? If you tend to paint fictional things as well, this tip will really help you. When I'm painting fictional things, especially fictional creatures, that gets a little bit more specific and you got to be a bit more careful than painting a fictional tree. For example, you can paint a few extra branches, nobody's going to say anything. If you paint a few extra limbs or a few extra muscles on something, then people might say something that might look strange. So in order to paint these very complex things and these things that may not exist in real life, I tend to do a little tiny sketch of it sometimes, right? And it helps me to wrap my brain around where this painting is going to go, in what direction. When I paint nice and small, it allows me to make mistakes very, very quickly and correct them, right? You're painting smaller, you're able to paint a lot quicker because you're painting smaller. The other thing is, when you're painting smaller, you tend to simplify your brush strokes more because you're painting smaller. And that allows your paintings to be generally more understandable. The real trick to painting something very complex, you'll find with so many other artists, is that we're able to think about complex things in a simplified way. That's the real trick to painting something very complex. And a great way to do this is by painting small, because it forces yourself to paint more simplified. And I'll just put that in the corner and continue my big painting, the main painting, and now I have a roadmap in mind. Generally, it's going to look like this. We're heading in this direction, and that's what the little sketch there is for. Now, some of you may have also seen videos of paintings where they're saying, don't paint in black and white, because to go from black and white to color, no, that's no good. That's no good. Well, let me tell you something. There's many painting methods over the years, over the decades, hundreds of years, where they started off monochromatic, right? They painted an underpainting with burnt umber or something like that, traditional oil paints, and then they bring it into color. So it does work. Now, I think what people tend to do wrong, if they are doing anything wrong going from grayscale to color, is that they rely too much on the computer. Just setting the settings to multiply or to colorize or whatever, and just laying in their color like that. That, of course, is gonna not turn out so well. I think of it as, I'm gonna paint this black and white. This way I could just think about everything in black and white, just values, just light and shadow. And then I'll bring in the color before I've fully thought everything out with value. Okay, when I have a rough, good idea, from there, I'll just lay in a bit of color, colorize a bit of it, right? Keep it simple, and then start painting direct color over top. This combination keeps things vibrant. This combination also keeps it away from that feeling of these 70s black and white pictures that have been colorized. You know, you don't want that kind of a feeling either. But hey, I don't think it's that bad to paint from black and white first and then to colorize it and then keep going. I think the real secret here is just to keep going. Don't just rely on colorizing it in the end and then saying it's finished. The other thing I want to mention is that this isn't always the way that I would start off a painting, but it is a way that I would generally start off paintings where I'm not totally certain of how I want this painting to go, right? If I'm not totally certain, then generally I don't want to think about that much. I just want to think about the light, the shadow, the form, and get that solid first. Unless the main purpose of this painting is about that certain color, right? I tend to work pretty methodically, going from what's most important down to what's least important. Now, brushwork, for me, I don't find it that important. I feel like it's icing on the cake, but I like icing, so why don't we try some custom brushes here. This one, I like it because it's not consistent. It makes a dirty, textury kind of feel, almost like using oil pastels for a longer period of time. Another nice thing that I like to do, starting off with grays, is I like to leave room for brighter or darker values that I know I'm going to use there later on. You can see I've really pushed a lot of my values together. So before this really light tone, you could feel, where is it light, where is it getting darker? But I didn't go beyond, say, 20% black, right? I didn't make anything brighter than that. So once I added in a true bright tone, you can see how much it affects the image. It really makes everything just pop right out. I love that. It's almost magical to me. You can see a lot of the stuff right here. I'm actually just kind of scribbling it in, not being too specific, just having fun and just being really loose with it, quite gestural almost, to also kind of concentrate on the whole texture on the ground. Now I want to give this painting a sense of motion, a sense of energy, and a lot of times the best way to do that is to focus on the secondary actions here, like all of the snow bursting, splatters of snow everywhere, just kind of coming out of the ground, and a big, gooby, slimy bunch of saliva coming out of his mouth. I kind of like that because you can really feel the texture, and it really gave the overall piece so much more motion and kind of fun, right? Slime is kind of fun. Now, part of the original idea here is that fall is over, winter is bursting in. So I wanted to also have some fall leaves in there just to drive that story home just a little bit more. Painted in a few more flying little critters, adding in a little bit of color dodge just to lighten up certain areas. Okay, and there you go. There's the final image. You can see I added in a few more flying little critters and we're all done. Now, I can't take credit for all the little bits and pieces that I've gone over in this video. Many of them I've gotten from amazing teachers where I've taken their courses, namely on schoolism.com. I'm not just the creator of Schoolism, but I'm also a client kind of thing. I'm also a student. I take the classes and I learn. Every time I take another Schoolism course, I level up. I know that you will too. So if it's okay with you, I'd love to play a short little clip about a winter sale that we're doing right now. It's a really good sale. So I hope you can watch this video and take advantage as well. Alright everybody.
Spread some holiday cheer this season by giving the gift of learning to yourself or a loved one during Schoolism's winter sale. For a limited time, save over 30% on a 1-year Schoolism subscription and get instant access to all 50+ art courses, access to all new courses coming out in the next 12 months, and the ability to attend exclusive weekly live webinars hosted by the industry's best artists to learn the secrets behind their success and techniques they use in their own work as professional artists. With savings like this, there's no better time to take advantage of this special offer and make this your best and most creative year yet. Offer ends on January 12th.